Hello, sportsmen. Hey, we're more than halfway through Michigan's 1994 firearm deer season, and it's been an interesting one. The success of hunters has been a little surprising, not really consistent with the past couple of years. We're going to lead off this program with a report from guides and sport shops from around the state. I'm going to try to piece together an analysis of the deer season so far. You stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost, and you're watching The Practical Sportsman. If you are looking for a big deer hunting success story on opening day, don't look at me. Hey, I not only had bad luck deer hunting, but I had another bonus. The day before opening day, I started feeling, a little bit queasy. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I had lost everything I had eaten the day before, and I was in bed. That's a deer hunter's nightmare. Stomach flu the day before opening day. Well, with some difficulty, I did manage to go out hunting on opening day, sat in the blind at least, but by dark, I was back in bed where I stayed until the next morning. Now, John Ford, he was all feeling chipper and happy and healthy, so he trucked around with the camera while I was down, but success was a little difficult to find. On the second morning, John sat in the blind with Paul Kieswetter, a blind where Paul always sees quite a few deer, but none showed up for the video camera. Unheard of. Well, I hope where you hunted it was a hot spot. Where we hunted here, Emmett County, kind of slow, but that's the way it was throughout much of the north for many hunters. Over here at Scott Superior Inn in Ontonagon, they say fewer hunters than last year. The rut was off to a slow start, but success has picked up. Lindquist here in Marquette says lots of hunters, but the success has been feast or famine. The rut is late. Hunters are just starting to see scrapes and rubs. On the east end of the UP, Muskong Bay, Judy says hunter numbers have been down. It's been slow, the warm weather, not seeing a lot of deer and even fewer bucks, but they're looking for improved success with the cold weather. Same thing over here at Drummond Island. Kim says there are lots of hunters there for the opener. They didn't see a lot of deer, but they heard lots of coyotes, and we heard them on opening evening as well. Skips here in Grayling says hunters' numbers were down. The opener was below average, but better than last year. See, last year they hung 14 bucks on their buck pole. This year, opening day, they hung 35. Ruts in full swing over here in Oscoda. Lori at Wellman's says there were fewer hunters on opening day. It was fair. Deer weren't moving with the warm weather, and the rut has started late. Pilgrims Village, the west side here, the northern lower, Cadillac, less hunters than last year, lots of deer being taken, and everyone's seeing them, and the rut did start later than normal. Whitehall, hunting pressure up. See, as we get down here to the south, this is the first sign of hunting pressure up. Outstanding opener with super hunting success. They're taking lots of deer, best in 10 years, according to Jim there at Lakeland Outfitters. Best chance, Bill says down in Saugatuck, hunting pressure is the same, but it's better success than last year. Knutson's at Brooklyn, same hunting pressure as last year, better opener. Last year they hung 50 bucks on opening day on the buck pole. This year they hung 100. They said Saturday, this past Saturday was the best day for big bucks. Over here at Mill Creek Sports in Dexter, Donna felt that hunting pressure is lighter than last year. More deer are being taken than last year. The rut is in high gear. And this buck pole at Mill Creek is where I've seen the biggest collection of big bucks ever. A small 8-point. How do you like this? Which one is it?
It's on the backside over there.
On the backside, a small 8-point. Not very many buck poles you hear that. What's yours?
10-point, 170 pounds dressed.
Is it on this side or on the
Way
other
in the
side?
back.
Way in the
They're
back.
hiding it.
They're hiding it. Anybody have one over here? This 10? Look at the
Deer
size.
I've ever shot at in my life. It's my first deer ever.
Is that right? How long you been hunting?
Been hunting for 5 years.
Okay. What's your name?
Joe,
From?
from Clinton Township, but I shoot down here in Monroe County.
Okay. You've been hunting for 5 years. How does this year compare? Conditions, success?
It's the corn crop this year. We definitely had a larger, better corn crop, more beans, so the deer were just grazing and probably had a better production of meat this year.
Okay. Were they as active?
More active than usual.
Is that
Usually
right?
they shy away, and this one just came right out middle of the field at 7 o'clock this morning, and I took him with one shot, my first shot.
Outstanding. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was terrific. Who else has one up here? Oh, you got this. This is a wide 8.
20 and a half inches.
20 and a half. Wow. Does anybody have that great big wide one down there?
I got this wide one.
He's going to come up with a wide one so he can be on
it's
TV. Yeah,
23.
It is 23 with
10
that.
point.
Yeah.
Counting that's 10.
Huh. How about the season for you?
It's been real good. I mean, this is the most year I've seen the most bucks.
Is that right?
I've seen in velvet 7 different bucks I got on videotape.
So all fall long you've seen them.
Oh, I've seen them all year long. This is the best.
Terrific. Anybody have?
14-year-old got one right here.
Which one? This one here, the 14-year-old? Look at the mass. Which one? Okay, we're going to get to yours. That's a wide one. Boy, that's a heavy rack. What is that, a 12?
On that side, though. 10. Would have been a 12.
Oh, that looks like it would maybe be a car accident or something,
Yeah.
I would think. So, your dad?
Yeah, this is my next one.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And what? how
It
many-
outdid me, but
Yeah, but how many points is this?
it's a 10.
That's a 10. And you got this when?
Opening night, he got his opening morning.
Oh, is that something else? Is this your first year? Of course it is. You're
Yeah.
14.
Yep.
So you don't have anything to compare it with previous
Nope.
years. How about
he
you?
got one with a bow. We both got
This
our
year?
bows with, a buck with a bow this year.
Well, you guys have had quite a successful season.
been good.
How does this season stack up?
I've seen a lot of bucks, a lot of nice bucks this year. I think the last 2 years, a lot of corn and the bad weather. I think the bucks lived. I think they're bigger this year.
You saw a lot of them?
I've seen a lot.
I want to see this one here. Oh, what's your name? Hold on, we got to get
Dave
that.
Howard.
Dave Howard and
Chad Heckler.
Chad. Okay, cool. Congratulations on that. Tell me about this one.
Oh, well,
What's the spread?
23 outside.
It looks even wider than that.
Yeah, it's such a nice looking rack.
Tremendous one. And the season for you? Sum it up.
That's first buck ever.
You,
I know you hate to hear
you
that.
have no perspective, man. You have no perspective. What a season was. First, he got his first buck ever. These are huge bucks. And John, you and I had our first day ever on opening day without seeing a deer.
Can only get better.
Yes. For us, yes. For you?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think there's no chance of that.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Even when you're not one of the lucky hunters, it's always fun to be around them. And as is always the case, many of the hunters who will get big bucks this season are first-time hunters, or at least the trophy buck is their first deer. We see it every year on Big Buck Night. By the way, the 1994 Practical Sportsman Big Buck Night will be telecast statewide on Thursday, December 8th. We got a great response to the way we handled it last year, which was to have a lot of big buck racks to look at that represent a whole spectrum of point categories. I think we had over 70 trophies last year. We're looking for about that number this year, too. Now, everybody with a big buck wants to be on this show, but we don't have room for everybody. So here's how we narrow down the invitation list. First of all, if you have a big buck or know of somebody who does, give Matt Radzalowski a call here at the Practical Sportsman, or write us a letter or send us your Practical Sportsman Hunting Award entry form. That way we know who has what racks, who's available to show up at the taping. Then we separate the entries into point categories. All the spike bucks in one group, 6 points, 7 points, 8s, and so on. Then we look at the group of largest bucks in each point class, taking into account the outside spread and length of tines and mass of the beams. Photos help us pick these out, as well as the measurements, but we do this with every point class. And we won't invite more than 8 racks out of a point class, but we may pick fewer than that, especially in the smaller point classes. Now, what about guarantees? Well, I will say that anyone with a rack that has at least a 23-inch spread will be invited, and any rack with a tine that's 11 inches or more will be invited. Those are the gimmies. They're in for sure, but naturally, we'll have quite a few impressive racks that aren't quite that big. This size is guaranteed, though, for those of you who absolutely want to know. Now, we're going to videotape the big bucks on Sunday, December 4th at the Practical Sportsman Museum in Bath. Only those hunters who have been screened and invited will be videotaped. Phone calls to the hunters who will be invited for Big Buck Night taping will be made on Thursday, December 1st and Friday the 2nd. So if you have a big buck you think is in the running, give us a call before then. That's how it was for a few hunters, but how was it overall for hunters in the state? Well, I like the way that Dave Ritchie summed it up in the Sunday Detroit News. His headline read, "It's location, location, location." He had a great quote. He opened his article saying, "As is always true, some hunters found good numbers of whitetails and many bucks. Other sportsmen found poor conditions and few or no deer." Amen. Dave also noted in his report from Roger Kirby up in Honor, which is in the same neck of the woods we were hunting, Roger said, deer seemed to be scarce the first 2 days. There just wasn't very much pressure Tuesday and Wednesday from hunters. That's exactly what we found up in the northwest corner of the state. So I was a little bit surprised on the way back from Emmett County last week to see a color picture on the front page of the Free Press, which said, "Deer season begins with a bang." It said that 90% of the corn had been harvested in southern Michigan, and hunters down south were doing extremely well. I couldn't figure out why, because there weren't that many hunters up north. Then it dawned on me. Southern Michigan, where most hunters live, well, the hunters stuck around home for the Tuesday opener. Out the Buckpole in Mill Creek, the biggest Southern Michigan buck that we saw that evening, a 12-pointer, was taken by a hunter who only had an hour to hunt on opening day. Oh, you got this one a few years ago. That's only whoa,
That's 9.
okay, 3 on that side, 6 on that side?
No, it's 5 and 4, I think. You can't see one time behind it.
That's
It's got a
huge
split
buck.
sign over there. Yeah, this one was over 200 too. This one's 210.
And look at this one that you got. This is a
210. It's a, well, you count that, it's a 12.
12-point?
If you count that,
Yeah, that broken.
yeah, it's got 2 broken tines.
Huh. So what's the story? You wanted to tell me the story.
Well, yeah, I used up all my vacation time on bow hunting, and I figured I could hunt an hour opening morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out and shot him. It was work on time. 8:30, I was to work, had him.
Kidding. What? Now you've gotten 2 huge bucks.
Yeah.
How does a guy do that?
Well, you just get out in the woods. You can't get them at home.
Oh, come on. You
gotta
schedule
get
an
out
hour
there.
for hunting,
No,
and then you
just
tell
get out
everybody to
there.
get out in the woods.
You got to get out there.
You got a special place.
I got a couple good spots.
Farm, country.
Yeah, farm, swamp.
Hey, John, look over here. I have a rack here that wasn't taken this year by a hunter. Well, it was found by a hunter, eh?
Yeah, I found it this April out in the woods over in Metro Park there in Brighton.
You mean in the Huron Clinton Metro Parks?
Yep.
Jeez, what a monster.
Get him scored out 173.
173. And of course, that's your rack now. What's your name?
Tony Lee.
Well, Tony, hold it up there for the camera. Didn't very often we do this angle. What a rack, huh, John? Found it. Jeez. Some hunters have all the luck. Okay, back to hunting. Some public TV stations didn't have our opening day report on last Thursday. For those viewers, here's a capsulation of our opening day report, 1994. It is now 8 a.m. And throughout this show, we're going to give you updates and reports that each time will give you some rationale for what we're doing and why. Now, the big concern between 7 and 8 a.m., and the reason we want to get out here in the blind before daylight, a half hour or an hour even before daylight when it's dark, is because the first hour of daylight is far and away the best hour, at least for trophy bucks. Now, I analyzed last year's 1993 hunting awards data. Now, these are the trophy deer. This isn't the average deer, but the trophy bucks. Looking at the chart between 7 and 8 a.m., look at the number of deer that were taken. Far and away, the most productive hour of the season. The second most productive hour was between 8 and 9, then 9 and 10, but it bottomed out there throughout lunchtime and after lunch. Now, at the end of the day, we often think of deer hunting being as really good at the end of the day, possibly better than the morning. Not so on opening day, at least for trophy bucks. It comes up in the evening, up until 5 o'clock, but not anything like it does in the morning. Now, the second day of the season, that's the one where hunters feel, wow, this is almost as good as opening day. That's not what the data shows for trophy bucks. The second day of the season is rather flat from dawn until dark. Well, it comes up at both ends of the day a little bit, but not like opening day. Then we'll take the other 14 days of the season. That's November 17th through the 30th. Now, that is comparable to opening day, really. Those 14 days, the number of trophy bucks that are taken are comparable. And the interesting thing is as we go through the season, the hunting seems to get better in the evenings rather than in the mornings. It might be because hunters tend to go out after work, but the important thing about this is that opening morning, the opening hour, is the best, and the few hours after that. So that's why we're here early, and that's why we're a little bit disappointed that we haven't seen deer in the first hour. But it's been a funny year, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The warm weather we've had coming into this deer season is highly unusual, and it's thrown a lot of hunters as to figuring out what the deer are doing in their mating activity. It's not a normal year. But that's the 8 o'clock report. There's still a lot of good hours left. Now, another thing to remember, just because most of the bucks were taken in that first hour, no reason to get bummed out, because there are bucks taken every day, trophy bucks throughout the season. And A hunter only needs one. We don't need 32 like we're in the opening hour. We only need one, and that can happen anytime.
Well, Fred, it's about 11:30, and I'm pretty sure I let you down today. No. Yep. I can't understand it. We haven't seen a single deer. And Paul and I looked at a map of this property yesterday, and he showed me all the hot spots on his property. It's an aerial map, and all the really good spots are marked with red pins. And this was one of our babies right here.
I think that we're going to have a lot of activity in the Van Road blind, the Lost Gun blind, the Far West blind. And in the past 3 weeks, we've seen a big buck down by the river. Marty and Jim saw him opening day of duck season, and some fellows were in a canoe yesterday, and they said we saw a monster buck just around the corner. So I think there's some really good chances tomorrow. Perfect. We all set?
We're all set. So this is one of them?
Yes. This is again. I think this is one of the hotter ones. Hey John, we're at the van blind. As you can see, it's out about 125 yards.
Okay.
And we just look at this big rub. A little bigger. Here's another one over here. This one's shredded.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's some activity, John. We have a scrape. You see this little licking branch, but he's had his antlers in here. He's broken off some branches. And as you can see, if you turn right around, we're basically due west of the blind.
Well, this looks really good.
Here's another one, John. This one's been worked over, and now we have an apparent line, and it's directly due west of your blind. If you turn around about 100 yards to the east, you can see your blind.
Oh,
And
yeah,
tomorrow, when this fellow walks out underneath that apple tree, you'll get a real good look at him.
Oh, yeah, I'll make sure I'll wake up Fred. Back in here, there's a whole line of rubs that extends about 100 yards back and comes right up to the field edge. And it just looked perfect. We looked at another blind, which was the Van Road blind, and that sign was even better. But it was so open, and there's a road that runs by it, and we just thought it'd be a little bit better for videotaping if we chose something that looked a little more scenic. And the third blind is the Lost Gun blind, and that's sort of Paul's baby. And he's taken all kinds of deer out of that blind. It looked good, but it didn't have any kind of sign really around it except for one or two rubs that we found, that Paul found. So I felt this would be the best taping right here. But we haven't seen a thing. We've got a couple more chances at it, but right now I think I'd like to go back and take a look and see what everybody else has done.
To make a long story short, the opening day noontime report from Paul Kieswetter's farm in Emmett County was 6 hunters, no bucks. The afternoon was even quieter. Well, here we are at the close of opening day 1994. For the first time in history, we got skunked. Now, I don't mean just not getting a buck or getting a deer, but not seeing any deer. What are the explanations for this? Well, this is something we've been talking about all day long in the blind. We've talked with other hunters about. I think it's a bit premature at this moment to put together all the possible reasons. We're going to pause for a moment here and roll by some of the reasons we've discovered just before we put this on the air. I think many hunters are going to have a top 10 list of why they didn't get a buck or see deer on this opening day. There's a lot of variables involved in many places around the state. But there's one thing that we didn't mention in this top 10 list, which is right above me. Many hunters have maintained over the years that deer move at night when there's a full moon. They don't move as much during the day. That could very well be true. It's just like the good old days. It is. You know why it's like the good old days? 2 days of hunting and 1 deer? Huh? That's the good old days. On the second morning, Marty got a 10-point buck from a blind by the river. The deer seemed to be in the swamp, not in the uplands where the rest of us were hunting. At noon on the second day, John Ford and I packed up and headed for southern Michigan, where the big bucks are traditionally taken. Here we are at the buck pole at Mill Creek down in Dexter. A huge crowd. How many people you got here tonight, Ray?
Holy smokes, I couldn't even begin to tell you. Uncountable.
You don't count the people.
I can't possibly do it. Can't
Okay.
count that high.
But how many bucks did you hang so far the first 2 days?
You know what? I think yesterday we had about 25 on the pole, and today I think roughly we got maybe about 35.
That's all?
That's all, yeah. It looks
I mean,
pretty full up
looks,
there, I
It
guess.
looks like
but
hundreds of them. No, seriously. That's only 35? I think you're counting wrong. 37?
37. See, someone counted.
Yeah, but these are not your average bucks.
No, that would be true. Some of them are oversized.
Other people have said who have come here from other buck poles, they said this is a different league.
Yeah, I think that's right. This is the major leagues here.
Well, since I think we put out the publicity that we're having this on television, some of the people with the smaller racks are a little intimidated.
Yeah,
They come here.
that's true, and that's too bad because we like to see them all up on the buck pole, no matter what size they are. They're all excellent harvests.
This is like 8 points and up club.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. I mean, we don't want to have anybody intimidated with a smaller buck and not come in. We love to see them all.
Yeah, but look at the crowd that the big ones draw.
That's true.
On the other side of the coin.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, how does this compare with previous years? What's your feeling of the season? Our experience up in Emmett County, it was very slow. I read in the newspaper, it was great. What do you think?
I don't know. To me, it seemed a little off, but yet the first night, like I say, I think we had a few more hanging than like last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I miss the snow. I think that gets them moving around a little more.
That's what I thought. We're going to talk to some of the hunters in a little bit to find out what they thought the reasons were that they were successful or unsuccessful. Of course, you've done a couple things this year, though. We did up certificates to give to the people on the buck pole.
Great idea.
A little different twist. And you also had T-shirts done, which I think you can thank the Nuge for this.
Is that right? Is that it?
Ted
told me,
Nugent. Ted Nugent lives. You whack 'em, we rack 'em.
Somebody told me I stole that saying from him. I feel bad
No,
about
he
that.
hasn't used this saying.
Oh, is that right?
No,
Okay.
That particular twist on it. No, that's terrific. Well, here we are at Mill Creek, and then we're going to talk to some of the hunters and find out what their success stories were.
Good, good.
Here we go, John. We're at the 14-point end of the buck pole here. In fact, we have a couple. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 10, 12. I don't know. That's a massive one. But this is from this area, I think.
You can't see it.
And this one.
This one's from Mayo.
Oh, way
My
up
dad
north.
got her. He's 62, and he field dressed it and drug it out himself. Now he's out two-stepping.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. He's still got a kick in his heels.
I'll be
He
darned.
hunted for 40 years to get one just like this up
Well,
in
you know,
Mayo.
up in Mayo, that is a big buck for
That
up in
is.
northern lower Michigan.
Well, we took it up to the DNR there, and they told us that was the biggest buck they had taken out of Mayo so far.
But you know, that goes to show you, you compare the sizes here, the thick, heavy beamed racks from the corn-eating bucks in the south compared to what is a big buck up north. They're, feeding out in the cedar swamps. But that's amazing. So how'd the son do?
Sun didn't do too good. All I seen
yeah?
was does.
Were you hunting up north there with him?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So you come down here and hang it on the pole.
Why, certainly.
The biggest one up there, you could be a hero up there right now.
Yeah. Well, he had to come back in 2 steps, so
Wait, what the heck?
keep the mama happy.
Can't keep a good man down.
Yep.